Om Agyanam Timirandasya Jnana-Jana-Shalakaya Chakshur-Anumritamena Tasmai Shri-Guruve Namah Chaitanya-Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swarupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Shri-Guru Shri-Yuta-Padakam Shri-Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri-Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganda-Gunathavitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavetam Savadutam Parijana-Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradan Sayan Dalta Shivishaka Vitamcha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tiramine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyava Dipa Shatate Shatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesh Gopiyakanta Radhakanta Namastute तप्त कंचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। Okay, so we have to start from here. Bhagavad Gita 9.12. Yes, Ashwini Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
9.12. Mogasha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasa rakshasi masurim cheva prakritim mohinim shita. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. The word moksha indicates that the aspirants of atheists will be baffled. The karmis or fruitive laborers are always hoping for something better to gratify their senses. There is no limit to where they will stop. They are trying to increase their bank balance and are hoping to be happy at a certain point. But that point never comes because they do not know the ultimate point of satiation. Those who are enamored by the attractions of illusionary energy cannot understand the ultimate aim of life. The word moga karmana indicates that they are laboring very hard, but that in the end they will only meet with frustration. Unless we are established in Krishna consciousness, all of our activities will be baffled at that.
Okay. Issue 2.
This is not the verdict of an ordinary man, but of Sri Krishna himself. If we are searching for knowledge, we should conduct research to find out whether Krishna is God, whether Krishna is not God, without any objective. What is the point of thousands of years of speculation? The Supreme Lord is so vast that one cannot reach him by mental speculation. If we travel at the speed of mind and winds for millions of years, it is not possible to reach the Supreme by speculation. There is not one single instance in which one has arrived at the Supreme Absolute Truth by means of his own mental speculation. Therefore, the word moh jana indicate that the process of mundane knowledge is bewildering. Through our own endeavor, it is not possible to see the sun after it has set. We have to wait until the sun reveals itself in the morning at sunrise. If it is not possible with our limited senses to perceive a material thing like the sun, how it is possible to perceive the non-material? We cannot find out or understand Krishna by our own endeavors. We have to qualify ourselves through Krishna consciousness and wait for him to reveal himself. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Naveen Prabhuji.
Bhagavad Gita 10.9. Tesham satutayuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yen mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Krishna is within, but due to our material conditioning, we do not realize it. Those who are of the nature of fiends and demons think that this material life is all and that it is the purpose of human life is to squeeze out as much pleasure from matter as possible. They try squeezing, but they are constantly baffled. Squeezing material nature is not the process for finding out real pleasure. If we are searching for real pleasure, we have to take Krishna consciousness. All happiness in the material world has a beginning and an end, but happiness in Krishna is unlimited, and there is no end. In order to get this happiness, we simply have to sacrifice a little time and chant Hare Krishna. In former ages, the great sages and demigods used to sacrifice their whole lives for realizing the Supreme, and still they would not attain success. For this age, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given an easy process for God realization. All that is necessary is careful listening. We have to listen to Bhagavad Gita and we have to chant the names of Krishna and listen to them carefully. We should not be puffed up, falsely thinking that our knowledge is great or that we are very learned. We need only become a little gentle and submissive to hear the messages of Krishna.
Swati Mataji.
At present, this world is being managed by the Rakshasas. The Rakshasas are man-eaters who eat their own sons for the satisfaction of their senses. Now, great regimes have been created to smash so many people for the satisfaction of the Rakshasa senses, but they do not realize that their senses will never be satisfied in this way. Nonetheless, the Rakshasas are prepared to sacrifice everything to satisfy their whimsical desires. It is very difficult for them to understand the real situation because they are overly enamored with material civilization. Who then can understand? Those who are Mahatmas, whose hearts have become magnified. Understand that everything belongs to God and I also belong to God.
Kanak.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Such Mahatmas are not under the control of material nature. Mahatmas tu mam partha devam prakartim asrita. Bhagavad Gita 9.13. God is great, and the Mahatmas are a heart also becomes great by serving the great. Mahatma is not a stem for a political leader. One cannot be stem Mahatma by votes. The standard for Mahatma is given in Bhagavad Gita. The Mahatma is who has taken shelter of the superior energy of the Lord. Of course, all energies are his, and he does not make distinctions between spiritual energy and material energy. But for the conditioned soul, who is situated marginally between material energy and spiritual energy, there is a distinction. The Mahatmas see this distinction and so take shelter under his spiritual energy. Devam Prakartrim.
By serving the great, the Mahatmas also become great through identifying with the superior energy. Am Brahmasmi, Am Brahman spirit. It is not that they become puffed up and think that they are God. Rather, if one becomes Brahman, he must show his activities in Brahman. Spirit is active, and to become Brahman is not to become inactive. Brahman is spirit, and these material bodies are active only because Brahman is within them. If we are active despite our contact with material nature, do we cease to active when we purify ourselves of material contamination and establish ourselves in our proper identity as pure Brahman? Realizing I am Brahman means engagement in spiritual activity because we are spirit, and our activities are exhibited even though we are contaminated by matter. To become Brahman does not mean to become void, but to establish ourselves in the superior nature, which means superior energy and superior activities. To become Brahman means to be completely engaged in rendering devotional service to the Lord. Thus, the Mahatma understand that if the service is to be rendered, it is to be to Krishna and no one else. We have so long served our senses, now we should serve Krishna. Yes, Ashwin Prabhuji.
There is no question of stopping service, for we are meant for service. Is there anyone who does not serve? If we ask the president, who are you serving? He will tell us that he is serving the country. No one is devoid of service. Service we cannot stop, but we do have to redirect our service from the illusion to the reality. When this is done, we become Mahatma.
Okay, Ishu Prabhu.
This process of Kirtana, always chanting the glories of Lord, is the beginning of Mahatma. That process is simplified by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who imparted to mankind this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 9 different processes of devotional service, of which Sarvanam and Kirtanam. Srimad Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavad, Bhagavatam 7.5.23. Hearing and chanting are the most important. Kirtanam actually means describing. We can describe with music, words, picture, etc. Shravanam goes hand in hand with Kirtanam. For unless we hear, we cannot describe. We don't need any material qualification in order to attain the Supreme. All we have to do is hear, and from all we have to do is hear from authoritative sources and repeat accurately what we hear.
Okay, Naveen Prabhuji.
Formerly, the Vedas were heard by the student from the spiritual master, and thus the Vedas became known as Shruti, meaning that which is heard. In Bhagavad Gita, for example, we see that Arjuna is listening to Krishna on the battlefield. He is not engaged in the study of Vedanta philosophy. We can hear from the supreme authority in any place, even in the battlefield. The knowledge is received, not manufactured. Some people think, why should I listen to him? I can think of for myself. I can manufacture something new. This is not the Vedic process of descending knowledge. By ascending knowledge, one tries to elevate himself by his own effort, but by descending knowledge, one receives the knowledge from a superior source. In the Vedic tradition, knowledge is imparted to the student from the spiritual master, as in Bhagavad Gita, Ivam Param Param Praptam Imam Raj Rishyo Vidu, Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Submissive hearing is so powerful that simply by hearing from authoritative sources, we can become completely perfect in our in becoming submissive. We become aware of our own imperfections. As long as we are conditioned, we are subject to 4 kinds of imperfections. We are sure to commit mistakes, to become illusioned, to have imperfect senses, and to cheat. Therefore, our attempt to understand the absolute truth by our faulty senses and experience is futile. We must hear from a representative of Krishna who is a devotee of Krishna's. Krishna made Arjuna his representative because Arjuna was his devotee. Bhaktos me sakha cheti. Bhagavad Gita 4.3.
Satyam Prabhuji.
No one can become a representative of God without being a devotee of God. One who thinks I am God cannot be a representative because we are part and parcel of God. Our qualities are the same as His. And therefore, if we study these qualities in ourselves, we come to learn something of God. This does not mean that we understand the quantity of God. This self realization process is one way of understanding God. But in no case can we preach, I am God. We cannot claim to be God without being able to display the parts of God. As far as Krishna is concerned, he proved that he was he was God by displaying so much power and by revealing his universal form to Krishna. Krishna showed this awesome form in order to discourage people who would claim to be God. We should not be fooled by one who claims to be God. Following in the footsteps of Arjuna, we should request to see the universal form before accepting anyone as God. Only a fool would accept another fool as God.
No one can be equal to God, and no one can be above him. Even Lord Brahma and Shiva, the most exalted demigods, and subservient to him, and pay their respectful obeisances. Instead of trying to become God by some meditational process or other, we had better hear about God submissively and try to understand Him and our relationship to Him. The representative of God or the incarnation of God never claims to be God, but the servant of God, this is the sign of bona fide representative. Hare Krishna.
Whatever we learn of God from authoritative sources can be described, and it will help us make spiritual progress. This description is called Kirtana. If we try to repeat what we hear, we become established in knowledge. By the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, we can become free from material conditioning and attain to the kingdom of God. In this age, it is impossible to practice sacrifice and speculation or yoga. There is no way open to us but the way of hearing submissively from authoritative sources. This is the way the Mahatmas received the most confidential knowledge. It is the way Arjuna received it from Krishna, and it is the way we must receive it from disciplic succession stemming from Arjuna. Okay, we are starting the next part, Parampara, knowledge through disciplic succession. Yes, Ashwin Prabhu.
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita 4.1 Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Ham Vyayam Vivaswan Manve Praha Mano Rikshavik Eva Bravit. The blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishwaku. Many years ago, Krishna imparted the divine knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan, the god of the sun. To the best of our knowledge, the sun is a very hot place, and we do not consider it possible for anyone to live there. It is not even possible to approach the sun very closely with these bodies. However, from the Vedic literatures, we can understand that sun is a planet just like this one, but that everything there is composed of fire. Just as this planet is predominantly composed of earth, there are other planets which are predominantly composed of fire, water, and air.
Yes, Ishpru.
The living entities on this various planet, the living entities on these various planets require bodies composed of element in accordance with the predominating element of the planet. Therefore, those beings who live on the sun have bodies which are composed of fire, of all beings on the sun. The principal personality is a god by the name of Vivaswan. He is known as Sun God, Surya Narayana. On all planets, there are principal personalities. Just as, just as in the United States, the chief person is the president. From the history called the Mahabharata, we understand that formerly there were only one kingdom, this planet by the name of Maharaj Bharata. He ruled some 5,000 years ago, and the planet was named after him. Subsequently, the earth has been divided into so many different countries. In this way, there is usually one and sometimes many controllers of the various planets in the universe. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Naveen Prabhu.
From this first verse of the fourth chapter, we learn that millions of years ago, Sri Krishna imparted the knowledge of Karma Yoga to the sun god Vivaswan. Sri Krishna, who imparts the teaching of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, here indicates that these teachings are not at all new, but were enunciated many ages ago on a different planet. Vivaswan, in his turn, repeated these teachings to his son Manu. In turn, Manu imparted the knowledge to his disciple Ishvaku. Maharaj Ishvaku was a great king and forefather of Lord Ramachandra. The point being made here is that if one wants to learn Bhagavad Gita and profit by it, there is a process for understanding it, and that process is described here. It is not that Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna for the first time. It is estimated by Vedic authorities that the Lord imparted this divine instruction to Vivaswan some 400 million years ago. From the Mahabharata, we understand that Bhagavad Gita was spoken around some 5,000 years ago. Before Arjuna, the teachings were handed down by disciplic succession, but over such a long period of time, the teachings became lost.
Swati Mataji.
Bhagavad Gita 4.2 एवं परंपरा प्राप्त में राज ऋषियो विदु सकले ने हो महता yogo nashtaha parantapa. Bhagavad Gita 4.3. Sa evayam maya tetya yoga prokta puratana bhakto asime saka cheti rahasyam hiyotadutam. The supreme was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. आगे पढ़ना है क्या प्रभु जी?
हाँ जी, लीजिए मतलब ये वाला पैराग्राफ.
In Bhagavad Gita, a number of yoga systems are delineated. Sorry. Bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga, and therefore it is here called yoga. The word yoga means to link up, and the idea is that in yoga we link our consciousness to Krishna, to God.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji. Am I audible, Prabhuji? Prabhuji?
आपका आवाज आ रहा है अमृत को?
Okay. Swati Mataji.
No, there there were many sages present at the time. By lost, it is meant that the purport of Bhagavad Gita was lost. Scholars may give their own interpretations of Bhagavad Gita, analyzing it according to their own whims. But that is not Bhagavad Gita. This is a point that Sri Krishna is stressing, and a student of Bhagavad Gita should note it. A person may be a very good scholar from the material point of view, but that does not qualify him to comment on Bhagavad Gita. In order to understand Bhagavad Gita, we have to accept the principle of disciplic succession parampara. We must enter into the spirit of Bhagavad Gita and not approach it simply from the viewpoint of erudition.
Okay. Kanak.
Of all people, why did Sri Krishna select Arjuna as a recipient of this knowledge? Arjuna was not a great scholar at all, nor was he a yogi, meditator, or a holy man. He was a warrior about to engage in battle. There were many great sages living at the time, and Sri Krishna could have given Bhagavad Gita to them. The answer is that despite being an ordinary man, Arjuna had one great qualification. Bhakto sime sakha cheti. You are my devotee and my friend. This was Arjuna's exceptional qualification, a qualification which the sages did not have. Arjuna knew that Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead, and therefore he surrendered himself unto him, accepting him as his spiritual master. Unless one is a devotee of Lord Krishna's, he cannot possibly understand Bhagavad Gita. If one wants to understand Bhagavad Gita, he cannot take help from other methods. He must understand it as prescribed in Bhagavad Gita itself, by understanding it as Arjuna understood. If we wish to understand Bhagavad Gita in a different way or give an individual interpretation, that may be an exhibition of our scholarship, but it is not a Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
Mataji. Are you there,
By
Mataji?
scholarship, we may be able to manufacture some theory of Bhagavad Gita, just as Mahatma Gandhi did when he interpreted Bhagavad Gita in an
उनका नेटवर्क का प्रॉब्लम शायद. आप कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं, मुझे लगता है.
Okay. By scholarship, we may be able to manufacture some theory of Bhagavad Gita, just as Mahatma Gandhi did when he interpreted Bhagavad Gita in an effort to support his theory of non-violence. How is it possible to prove non-violence from Bhagavad Gita? The very theme of Bhagavad Gita involves Arjuna's reluctance to fight and Krishna's including him to kill his opponents. In fact, Krishna tells Arjuna that the battle had already been decided by the Supreme, and that the people who were assembled on the battlefield were predestined never to return. It was Krishna's program that the warriors were all destined to die, and Krishna gave Arjuna the opportunity of taking the credit of conquering them. If fighting is proclaimed a necessity in Bhagavad Gita, how is it possible to prove non-violence from it? Such interpretations are attempts to distort Bhagavad Gita. As soon as the Gita is interpreted according to the motive of individuals, the purpose is lost. It is stated that we cannot attain the conclusion of Vedic literature by the force of our own logical argument. There are many things we do not come with the jurisdiction of our sense of logic. As far as scriptures are concerned, we find different scriptures describing the absolute truth in different ways. If we analyze all of them, they will be bewilderment. There are also many philosophers with different opinions, and they are always contradicting one another. If the truth cannot be understood by reading various scriptures, by logical arguments or philosophical theories, then how can it be attained? The fact is that wisdom of absolute truth is very confidential, but if we follow the authorities, it can be understood. Okay, so should we stop here, Prabhuji?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Okay, so we are stopping it from here and start with the learnings and realizations. Okay. We can start with his session, Prabhuji.
Oh, sure. So I like few points. One was the one which is starting from that Mogha Karmana. So that's a word that has been used to define materialistic people. Those are baffled in their fruitive activities. And Mogha Asha, baffled in their hope. Asha means hope. Mogha means they are in illusion, baffled in their hopes. So the point is that the Mogha Karmana, the one who is baffled in fruitive activities, keep working day and night, and he will always be in the hope of being satiated, means being satisfied, or जब हम बोल सकते हैं कि बस I am done, but that I am done situation never comes for Mogha Karmana, the one who is baffled in fruitive activities, and the reason is itself in the definition. He is Mogha, baffled, and because he is baffled, he will always think, oh, I just reached to the satiated state. I'm just about to reach. Like that, he will keep endeavoring, but then he will not be satisfied. That is why we hear in Chanakya Niti also that one who is satisfied with whatever he has is the richest man, because even the richest man on this planet is not satiated or satisfied. So I like this point, Mogha Karmana and Mogha Asha. Then second point was Sharanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam. So we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam also the Sharanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Pad Sevanam. So these are the stages of Vishnu Smarnam. So what is the, so if I come back to the original point, how we can go back home, back to Godhead? By continuous remembering Krishna. So with that continuous remember, at the time of death, when we die, we at that time also will remember Krishna, and then we'll go back home, back to Godhead. But the point is how we can remember Krishna throughout the life. We'll have to first practice throughout the life, then only we can remember at the end of the life. Now comes the point, how can we do this? Smarnam throughout the life. Then the process is Shravanam Kirtanam. We will hear and then we will glorify the Lord. That's how we can do Vishnu Smarnam. So first, Prabhupada is stressing that our process is not like go to jungle and do severe austerities like sages in other yugas used to do. In Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is flowing, and due to his mercy, he has made the bhakti process very simple. We just have to hear first. When we will hear, then we will do kirtan also. We'll tell others that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll chant Hare Krishna also. So Sharanam Kirtanam. By this process, there will be Vishnu Smarnam. So as much we are hearing, we are doing kirtan, and to that much we are doing Vishnu Smarnam also. And to that extent, we are getting purified and become eligible to go back home back to quote it. And then Prabhupada says the one who is doing this is Mahatma. That definition is also clear. But the important point is whoever is doing Shravanam and Kirtanam, and to the extent who is doing Vishnu Smaranam, that soul is very rare. Like Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanamam Prapadyate Vasudevam Savamiti Samatmasa Durlabha. So Sa Mahatma So Durlabha. It means that Mahatma is very, very rare. Bahujanam Janmanam Ante. So that Shrinam Kirtana Vishnu Smaranam soul is very rare. And the lastly, knowledge comes in disciplic succession. So that is also very nice point that we always hear in Prabhupada books. Thank you so much, Vipro.
Thank you so much, Guruji. Amazing point. Thank you so much. Your next, Ishu Prabhu, you want to say something?
प्रभु जी, अश्विनी प्रभु के लास्ट पॉइंट से एक क्वेश्चन निकल के आता है जब प्रभु जी महात्मा की डेफिनेशन बता रहे थे. यहाँ तक प्रभुपाद की बातों से क्लियर हो जाता है कि महात्मा का जो डेफिनेशन है वो रबर स्टाम्प से नहीं आता है कि किसी ने आपको महात्मा बना दिया, आप महात्मा गांधी बन गए. दैट इज नॉट द केस विद भगवद गीता. हाँ, तो महात्मा की डेफिनेशन यहाँ अलग है, भगवान की दृष्टि में महात्मा अलग है. बट अश्विनी प्रभु, एक क्वेश्चन था मेरा इसी में कि महात्मा की जो पहली क्वालिफिकेशन आती है इसमें कि ही ऑलवेज एंगेजेस इन श्रवणम एंड कीर्तनम. तो हमारे साथ में केस ये है कि हम 2 घंटे करते हैं तो है साधना, लेकिन उसके बाद हम भूल जाते हैं. तो ये ऑलवेज वाला फैक्टर कैसे हम इंटरप्रेट करते हैं उसमें कि व्हेन वी गेट द अपॉर्चुनिटी तब, या मतलब हाउ हम इसे जस्टिफाई कैसे करते हैं ऑलवेज एंगेज्ड इन कृष्णा?
ये प्रश्न मेरा प्रभु जी, मैंने भक्ति वैष्णव महाराज से पूछा था 1 साल 1.5 साल पहले ये प्रश्न कि हम बोलते तो हैं महात्मा या 24/7 कैसे एंगेज हैं. तो उन्होंने मुझे समझाया था कि जब हम ये टीवी वगैरह देखते हैं तो उसमें वो एडवर्टाइजमेंट को बार बार फ्लैश करते हैं. कॉलगेट ये सब बार बार आता है ना, बीच बीच में रोक रोक के वो दिखाते हैं किसी एड को. और उसके बाद वो एड की ब्रांडिंग ऐसी हो जाती है कि आप टूथपेस्ट लेने भी जाते हैं तो आपके दिमाग में पहले वो कोलगेट आता है या वो प्रोडक्ट से आप अपने को देखते हैं. जैसे वो एलाइट क्लास ऑफ मोबाइल मीन्स क्या होगा, आईफोन. क्योंकि उतना मार्केटिंग कर करके उसको वैसे उसकी ब्रांडिंग की गई. तो इसलिए इसका मतलब क्या है, बोले कि उसी तरह हम लोगों को भी ज्यादा से ज्यादा सुनना पड़ेगा ताकि हमारी कॉन्शियसनेस में वो जाए कि वो है भगवान. तब हमारे कॉन्शियसनेस में वो चला जाएगा तो ऑटोमेटिक हम ऑफिस का काम भी कर रहे होंगे तो विष्णु स्मरणम हो रहा होगा. सो द की इज द सेम जी, शरणम कीर्तनम. देन तो जितना हम ज्यादा करेंगे, बार बार जैसे एडवर्टाइजमेंट को फ्लैश करते हैं उसी तरह ज्यादा करने से वो फिर अनकॉन्शियस माइंड में भी चला जाएगा, फिर विष्णु स्मरणम ऑटोमेटिक हो जाएगा. तो अभी तो ठीक है जितना कर रहे हैं, बट फोकस मतलब वही है. मैं कल भी राधे श्याम प्रभु का लेक्चर सुन रहा था, प्रभु जी बता रहे थे वी शुड प्लान फॉर मटेरियलिस्टिक एक्टिविटीज और वी शुड प्लान फॉर स्पिरिचुअल. सो उसमें भी पॉइंट वही था कि मटेरियलिस्टिक तो चल ही रहा है, चलता ही रहेगा, पहले से भी चल ही रहा था. स्पिरिचुअल अब जाके मिला है किसी जन्म में, तो उसके लिए प्लानिंग बहुत जरूरी है. तब
मतलब प्रभु जी यहाँ से ये निकल के आता है कि जैसे हम घर वालों के लिए सोचते रहते हैं 24 घंटे काम करते समय कि ये करेंगे वो करेंगे, तो उसे रिप्लेस करना है कृष्णा के, मतलब अल्टीमेट गोल चेंज करना है.
एब्सोल्युटली. कबीर के साथ भी एक पास टाइम में ऐसे आता है, सब्जी खरीदने गए थे मार्केट से डेली का, वो काफी गरीब थे. तो मैं शॉर्ट में बताता हूँ, तो मार्केट से कुछ सामान बेच के उससे जो पैसे आते उससे घर वालों के लिए खरीद के लेके आते. तो मार्केट गए तो कोई गरीब मिल गया तो जो कमाया वो उसको दे दिया सारा. फिर 3 दिन तक घर नहीं आए. तीसरे दिन कोई लेने आया उनको, कहे कि अरे आप चलिए, वहां पे कोई रिच आदमी आया हुआ है आपके घर पे, 3 दिन से सामान बांट रहा है वो, तो आप भी चलो. आप कहाँ छुपे बैठे यहाँ पे? अब वो छुपे इसलिए बैठे थे कि मैं घर जाऊंगा तो डांट पड़ेगी मेरे को कि कुछ लाए नहीं. तो आज पता चला कि उनके बिहाफ पे भगवान ही आ गए थे, कुछ बुकी बैल वगैरह कुछ सामान सब लेके उनके घर वालों को खिला रहे थे. तो obviously we are not at the level of Kabir for sure, he is a pure devotee, but yes, हमें अपना भजन बढ़ाएंगे, उतना परेशान होने की जरूरत नहीं है. सब सप्लाई करते हैं भगवान. अल्टीमेटली अब हमें भी तो वही सप्लाई कर रहे हैं, हम कि हमें कर्ता मानते हैं अपने को, तब जाके दिक्कत आ रही है. वही तो भगवान कह रहे हैं भगवद गीता में कि fools deride themselves as doer, but I am the doer. Correct है ना ईशु?
True प्रभु जी, true. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shiva. Naveen Prabhu wants to add something. Yes, Prabhuji.
No, by mistake, Prabhuji. Sorry.
Okay. Sure.
Swati Mataji.
तो ये सब पॉइंट्स कवर कर ही लिए हैं, लाइक डिसाइक्लिक सक्सेशन भी प्लस महात्मा वाला पॉइंट भी, तो सब कुछ कवर कर लिया है हमने, so there is nothing to add from my side.
Thank you. Kanak, you want to add something?
यस, मुझे लास्ट वाला पॉइंट बहुत अच्छा लगा। मेरी एक फ्रेंड थी, वो हम लोगों का ऐसी डिस्कशन हुआ था कि आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड भागवत गीता। तो मैं मतलब मैंने फिर उसे यही वाला पॉइंट बताया था कि इफ वी अंडरस्टैंड भागवत गीता थ्रू आवरसेल्व्स तो हम नहीं समझ सकते। भागवत गीता में ही दिया हुआ है कि हम भागवत गीता को कैसे समझ सकते हैं। वी हैव टू गो थ्रू अ गुरु। तो मुझे ये वाला पॉइंट ही ऐड करना था बस। थैंक यू।
आपकी फ्रेंड का नाम गुरप्रीत चावला है माता जी?
नहीं,
अच्छा,
अरे
जिन्होंने
प्रोड्यूस
पूछा। ओके, मैं ऐसे ही सोच रहा था कि मुझे लगा गुरप्रीत चावला 90 ज्वाइन किया हमारे ग्रुप।
अच्छा नहीं, मैंने गलत आईडी से ज्वाइन कर लिया गलती
वो
से।
दैट्स फाइन माता जी, कोई दिक्कत नहीं।
सॉरी।
4 चैप्टर में आप याद भी रख सकते हो श्लोका को, तो श्लोका को कोट कर सकते हैं जो सब भगवान बताए हैं कि।
हाँ, मैंने स्क्रीनशॉट ले लिया है, मैंने उसे भेज
ओके,
भेज दूंगी अब मैं।
जय जय, ठीक।
ओके, तो मुझे 2 पॉइंट्स बहुत अच्छे लगे। एक तो मतलब एक रेफरेंस दे सकते हैं ना कि हरि नाम कब से चल रहा है, भगवत गीता ज्ञान कब से चल रहा है। तो हमारे पास मतलब जनरली मतलब मेरे पास कुछ रेफरेंस नहीं होता कि हाँ मतलब द्वापर युग में तो दिया था भगवान ने अर्जुन को, लेकिन भगवान राम के टाइम में भी था। तो इसमें अभी बताया प्रभुपाद ने कि जो इक्ष्वाकु थे वो 4 फादर थे भगवान राम के। तो इट मीन्स वो एनी हाउ वो उनसे उनके मतलब 4 फादर से ग्रैंड फादर से उनके पास मतलब उस युग में भी भगवत गीता का ज्ञान डेफिनेटली इट मस्ट बी देयर।
अमेजिंग पॉइंट। या
तो वो हम रेफर कर सकते हैं कि ऐसा नहीं है कि तब ही था, उससे पहले भी भगवान राम के टाइम में भी था। और सेकंड पॉइंट वही ये लास्ट वाला पॉइंट मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लगा प्रभुपाद ने जो महात्मा गांधी के लिए बोला कि भाई वो वो बोल रहे हैं स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड कि मतलब पीस कैसे आ सकता है भगवत गीता को समझ के। पीस का मतलब वो है कि वो कह रहे हैं कि क्या कह रहे थे वो, सॉरी वो कह रहे थे ना कि
नॉन
नॉन वायलेंस यस। तो जब जब भगवत गीता वो बैटल फील्ड में ही बोली गई है और वो इंस्ट्रक्शन वहां पे यही क्लियर है कि भाई ये सब जो सामने है इन्हें उड़ा दो, मतलब मार दो इन्हें। तो वो पी नॉन वायलेंस कैसे सिखा सकता है? तो मेरे को वही मतलब ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि अगर हम खुद से समझते हैं ना तो वो हम कुछ भी मतलब निकाल सकते हैं। डेट इज मतलब बताइए महात्मा गांधी और वो ये नॉन वायलेंस करे जा रहे हैं भगवत गीता को लेके पकड़ के नॉन वायलेंस, तो कुछ भी बोले जा रहे हैं, तो वो सही नहीं है। So we should learn from authoritative sources and yes, through Guru Parampara only. That's why Guru Parampara is so important. That's all from my side.
प्रभु जी इनफैक्ट ये भी हुआ था कि जब उसने भगवत गीता पढ़ी उसे समझ नहीं आई और हमारा थोड़ा हीटेड आर्ग्यूमेंट हो गया, तो उसने मुझे अपनी कोई जो वो फॉलो कर रही है ना उसकी बुक्स मेरे घर कोरियर करवा दी कि कनक तुम ये पढ़ो।
ब्रह्मानंद है कोई वो उनकी ये वीडियो बुक।
ठीक है, नवीन प्रभु जी से सुनते हैं अभी।
प्रभु जी नवीन प्रभु जी is not feeling
Okay.
good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, anything anyone wants to add, you may please. Okay. Okay. So,
वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Thank you, Hare Krishna, for joining.